Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, for joining us today. We're really excited to have, our very esteemed panel here with us. We're delighted to be hosting this panel, bringing together really industry leaders, across different segments in travel retail to really discuss what the future of, this industry looks like. So for us, today's conversation will actually explore how, some of these evolving traveler profiles and shifting global dynamics are reshaping, the industry as it is today, particularly as brands, respond to increasingly experience-driven and digitally native consumers. So maybe let me just, do a quick introduction of, our very esteemed panel. So of course, on my right, we're very happy to have Eva with us. Eva is president of Travel Retail Worldwide and member of the L'Oréal Group Executive Committee, and brings more than 25 years of experience, across the group, now overseeing global travel retail and, the strategic transformation across all continents. So, hence, thank you. Next to Eva, we have Ian McLennan, Group Chief Markets Officer at Revenue Control. And Ian has been with the group for over 9 years, overseeing both global travel retail as well as downtown channels, and also now oversees all markets globally. Ian, please. Finally, we're honored to have Nina Patricia da Costa, General Manager for Singapore, Malaysia, and Travel Retail APAC for the Lego Group. Nina leads the region's commercial strategy, driving brand growth and retail excellence across diverse markets. So thank you very much again for joining us here today. So maybe we'll start with really the broader picture, as we've discussed. So, we see, while travel retail has, rebounded somewhat, I'm sure it could grow more, but rebounded somewhat, from, the post-pandemic, we are also seeing sort of, deeper structural shifts across, traveler behavior as well as, spending patterns. So, maybe we just, sort of start with, what the state of, affairs is currently. So, we like to hear your perspectives, actually, on how APAC travel retail in particular has evolved over the past 5 years, where you see some of these opportunities are, particularly in Southeast Asia. So maybe we'll start with, Eva, just really sort of, specific to the rapidly evolving beauty landscape, whatever we see, online or beauty talk, etc. What major shifts do you see, right, in consumer behavior, especially in key travel hubs like Changi?
Thank you for the question, Melissa. First of all, our consumers are indeed evolving. Same as the reason for travel, also the justification for any consumption. The expectations are also changing. 47% of the travelers are looking for immersive experience. So therefore, we try very hard to give them something new, better, and different. Some example is like SkinCeutical in Changi Airport. We're the first skincare brand to bring an advanced high-end medical aesthetic device in the airport. Personally, I find it quite cool, honestly, in the airport environment. We're lucky because at L'Oréal, we have a huge portfolio of brands, 31 international brands available in travel retail, with brands from different origin, price range, from head to toe, hair care, makeup, fragrance, everything you can name it, and with solution for different skin type, hair type, age, culture, and also skin concern. So we are in a slightly better position to address this diversified needs and expectation. One thing we have noticed is that consumers are looking for new popular brands. They always want something new, particularly those which they cannot find in domestic market. One recent example is the launch of Aesop Shop in Changi Airport. We are very happy with that. We're recruiting a lot of travelers to consumers. Conversion is good with unparalleled products and services. So I think this trend will continue. Together with the retailers and the airport, we want to navigate these opportunities together.
Yeah. No, thank you very much, Eva. I think sort of building on that point, right, and about how, what the consumer of today looks like. So maybe the next question is for Ian. So we see sort of how passenger volumes have stabilized, but, some of these, consumer spending patterns have changed, as people sort of, look to more, immersive experiences. So if 2019, pre-COVID was really about volume, and duty-free savings, particularly in the wine and spirits category, what defines the traveler of today for the category that you represent?
Well, I think you mentioned about volumes or traveler numbers. No longer can you use traveler numbers as an indicator of how your business will grow. It used to be very simple. Look at your pax growth. Generally, that was your budget. That was the growth the spend per pax would follow. We know there's massive variations. Some of it's the reduction of the Chinese traveler outside of China. Clearly, Hainan was quite small for wines and spirits 5 years ago because liquor was not part of the offshore duty-free. So that's had a big change. But I think spending habits have changed. People are more conservative, cautious. Ava mentioned about experiences. I think people are demanding more today. And if you look at wines and spirits, no longer are you just buying a product. You want to know a little bit more about the product. And I always say to our sales associates, the most important people in our business are the people who sell our product. Because AI will do a lot. I think I was mentioning on the AI on the video how AI will revolutionize our business. But people sell our products. So when you go to Changi Airport, and I arrived last night, and our sales associates magically knew I was coming. They knew exactly what flight I was on. And they rushed straight over to me. So I tell me, look, tell me a story. What's happening? And our business is storytelling. And I was asking them about the business, because you can tell from body language and confidence if the business is good or bad. Thankfully, our business is good, thankfully, at the airport. But what I'm saying to the team is you have to try harder. It's no longer just price or the functional benefits of the product. You need to know the information behind. Travelers are more and more demanding. They want to know that product, cognac, how's it made? Where's it from? What's the difference between the 3 cognacs you see on the back wall? They're all great, but there's a different story. There might be a difference in the taste or the way that they're produced. They expect that level of knowledge. The other thing is on whiskies. Quite often we find pronunciation of brands like Bruichladdich, which is Gaelic. People are struggling and sometimes embarrassed. They point at the product. They'll go the blue bottle. And I know that's for other products within the whiskey category. So you sometimes should not assume the consumer knows everything about your brand, starting with how to pronounce the product. And our job is to demystify, bring it to life, and say it's the sales associates on the shop floor that can make the difference. Merchandising also helps as well. Use of, from perfume and cosmetics. I think they're much better than wines and spirits. We're in catch-up mode. We have to use the back wall and the gondola to be able to explain the story. And no longer is it pilot high, and if you buy that, you get a free trolley bag. Who needs a free trolley bag? I think what you want is you want information on the product. Particularly in travel retail, we know allowances are quite strictly monitored. Most travelers are well aware if they can buy a litre and a half, so they can't buy any more. They're not going to bulk up on the product, but what they can do is trade up. And that's the role, I believe, for travel retail. When I look at my domestic business versus GTR, is the big opportunity is to get consumers who are willing to spend $40 to spend $60. And again, that's the opportunity, I believe, in building value rather than volume. And the final comment is the world we live in is very unpredictable. I was in Singapore, I think, 2 months ago, and we were talking to the EDB, and I was talking a lot about the Middle East. And the Middle East is the biggest threat to Asia travel retail, because in wines and spirits, the largest liquor airport or store in the world was Dubai Duty Free, who do an amazing job. But unfortunately, they don't have any traffic for the last 2 months. So when you don't have the traffic, you don't have the business, things will change. I think Asia will pick up a lot of the connecting flights. I think Changi will benefit, certainly on the Australian routes. The flight I was on last night from London was the flight that goes to Sydney. But we have to educate the traveler of what they can buy when they're on a layover or a stopover flight. So the basic information, I could hear people talking about could they buy duty free. And I wanted to jump into the conversation and say, yes, you can, and here's how you can buy it.
Thanks very much, Ian. So maybe turning this over to Nina, who will not face, I guess, any restrictions from a liquid standpoint.
Yeah.
Liquor represents an entirely different category altogether, and I think travel retail is a sort of growing space, for the liquor group. So what unique insights does that give you, on how travel expectations are sort of evolving along the way, and where do you see some of the untapped potential as well?
Thank you. Being a non-traditional category in travel retail, I would say gives us a different lens on how traveler expectations are evolving. What we see amongst travelers today, especially with families and young adults, is that people are looking for moments of joy, creativity, and experience, no longer just luxury and price advantage. And for the Lego brand, purchases are often emotional versus planned. It's all about gifting, shared play, or creating memories from the trip, right? And we saw this very clearly in our activations. What you see now on screen is a great example of it, our F1 activation at the Sydney airport, where we saw that families actually didn't just browse. They actually stopped, they played together, they engaged, and they built together. And what we saw was that these kinds of interactions, these kinds of moments are what drove conversion for us. So I would say that what we do in the Lego group for the Lego brand is that we design these experiences that are purposeful and connected to the journey, whether through our activations such as this or through travel-exclusive engagements.
Great, thank you very much, Nina. So maybe let's bring this discussion closer to home, right, to Singapore. Singapore is, a travel hub for many, but I think we also see it very much also as a test bed for innovation, for talent development, and actually, to look at, new consumer segments. So maybe sort of, just building on, your point, on the F1 activation in the Sydney airport. So for a brand like Lego that really thrives on, such creativity and play, right? Singapore offers that blend of cultures, different consumer segments, and actually a lot of consumer sophistication as well. So how does Singapore serve as a test bed, for new travel retail concepts, right? Particularly in emerging areas such as digital experiences?
Yeah. Singapore plays a very unique role for us. It's essentially a living laboratory for the future of travel retail, and I truly, truly believe that. What makes it powerful is something that we all know of. It's the combination of cultural diversity, digital maturity, and highly sophisticated consumers, all in one compact ecosystem. And I think, I also believe very much that the Singapore government, its strong support and close collaboration, particularly through EDB, for example, or other domestic agencies, play a very important role in bringing such collaborations, such outcomes to life for different brands across different categories. So if we bring it closer to home, I've seen that happen already, with my domestic activations here in Singapore, right here in our home. Like our F1 activation, for example, during the Singapore Grand Prix, including that from 2024, which was supported by the Singapore Tourism Board. And then most recently, we also had the Lego Shop House, which I am proudly showing on screen next, in the next slide, basically. Which showed us, the strong appetite for locally relevant and experience-led retail. And you'll see this come to life further. I'm also very happy. If you want to bring it a little bit closer to travel retail, you'll see this come to life as well in a few weeks with our partnership with Jewel, where we will be having a Lego Botanicals activation, which is a unique local campaign celebrating Singaporean creativity, Jewel's iconic beauty, and the boundless potential of Lego play that will offer fresh, vibrant, and incredibly fun experience for adults and families alike, and for all the travelers going through Jewel in and out of the Changi airport. And in that activation, we will also be partnering with the Singapore Fashion Council that will bring something that Singapore has never seen before, a show that is something to be really, truly, truly memorable for everyone who will be able to see it. And my personal ambition is to bring that kind of thinking and that kind of experience in Changi, the world-class, a very world-class airport, bring it there, because Changi is not just a transit hub, right? It's a world-class airport where travelers are really, truly open to engage and to experience new things.
Great, thank you, Nina. And I'm very glad, to hear you use the word living lab, as well. So maybe the next question is for Eva. So, in thinking about, how Singapore can play that role as a living lab for brands, could you share an example of a project, that L'Oreal was able to stress test, or pilot here in Singapore, something that might have been more challenging to pilot, elsewhere?
No, indeed, globally, beauty is still the leading category in travel retail worldwide. Yep. We still always want to stay ahead of the curve in terms of consumer and travelers' engagement. Let me give you two examples how we use AI to engage our consumers, travelers, better. Number one, first time ever, in Chengyi, we launched a Lancome AI travel beauty advisor. So by interacting with the travelers, both in Chinese and English, we're able to diagnose the travel plan of the traveler, and then to predict what kind of skin concern the traveler you will have, and then come up with a personalized skincare solution. Personally, I find it quite cool, and it's quite well received by the travelers. Then the second example is a YSL AI DJ beauty consultant. This becomes a kind of benchmark or reference in terms of retailtainment, which gives, again, another memorable experience for our consumers. So we're quite happy with these two test and learn, and that we're going to, scale it, and also hopefully to accelerate in more different point of sale.
Great, thank you very much. I think for us, it's really, as you mentioned, really that retailtainment, right, and that experience. So maybe, for Ian, I guess how do you sort of, shape, the way that, the brand thinks about product curation, experiences, and sort of brand storytelling, right here, in Singapore, given, that, there really is that level of sophistication, right, and the appreciation for culture also, across the, the different travelers that you get here, coming through Changi.
Well, our GTR business has been in Singapore for a decade now. I'm very happy to be here. I don't tend to move it, you'd be glad to know. It's also our regional hub for Asia. Two reasons. One is in terms of talent, the availability of talent, and also attractiveness for talent to move to Singapore. So our expat community, if you name places that people want to move to, Singapore is always top of the list, particularly for families. The third reason is, for me, in terms of food and beverage and bringing our brands to life, if I look at what the STB has done in Singapore in terms of MBS, the expansion of MBS, the hotels, the number of Michelin-starred restaurants, this is an amazing place for food and beverage, particularly high-end, and it's a great way to bring the brands to life. The largest wine and spirits store in Singapore is Changi on arrivals. So the airport has an important role to play for domestic business because people are purchasing to bring into the country and using their allowance, which is quite unusual. But we want people to have a full 360 experience. And for us, it's really important that we create our brands in the restaurants and the bars and the hotels, as well as at the airport for retail purchase, as well as with the airlines, including Singapore Airlines, to be able to work on board, and with F&B at the airport. So our category is maybe slightly different to cosmetics or Lego in the fact that you can enjoy it everywhere. Props Lego you can enjoy everywhere, but for me, the F&B and the duty-paid business is equally as important as duty-free. And I think Singapore, being an island state, means you can do all of that in quite a contained area. But for us, we're very excited to do more. I think AI is something we want to work more in Singapore, how it can help us not change our business necessarily, but make it more efficient and faster. I still believe in people will make a difference. The fact that hopefully in 10 years' time, these types of events will still happen where we meet people in person, because I think that's what our business is about, is human relationships. But very optimistic for the future, and Singapore certainly intends to be our hub in the future.
Great, thanks very much, Ian. I think across the different responses that we've heard from all three panelists, there's been quite a lot of discussion on actually partnerships. Right? And I mean, we didn't pay anybody to say this, but a lot of partnerships with the Singapore government, as well. And we're very glad to be supporting, a lot of the good work that's, being piloted here in Singapore. So as we sort of really think about, the future of travel retail, right? And we see how quickly it's evolving, particularly, given, AI, and we talked about agentic AI, or even AI native brands, right, as trends that are upcoming. How would, sort of, companies think about leveraging some of these partnerships in Singapore further, right, to enhance the consumer experience and the next phase of travel retail? And actually, is there a Singapore advantage, I guess, that people are actually underestimating at this point? I think we can open it up. I think anyone can start with this. Yeah, please. Yeah.
For us, we want to drive an augmented consumer journey with seamless digital experience. We also want to connect online touchpoint with the travelers before the trip and during the trip, because this is the best way to give them a more personalized experience. Some example is that in Singapore, we had first time ever meta advertising with Grab Taxi app in order to activate a big beauty campaign with YSL, which went very successful. So we're happy with that. We also have some data collaboration project with some top traveler platform, like Agoda, which is definitely the most visited travel platform outside China. And on top, we also have collaboration with Ctrip from China. With these together, we're able to give personalized experience for all the travelers, even during the planning. So we believe that we have to redefine the whole ecosystem of travel retail. We want to also reshape and redefine the future of travel retail beauty. So Changi is a good platform because, first of all, you have the traffic. The traffic is growing. Southeast Asia is definitely one of the most dynamic region in terms of traffic growth. By the way, the traffic is already exceeding the pre-COVID level. So personally, I'm confident this region, with Changi particularly, we're going to test a lot of the new concept to bring consumer experience to the next level.
Thank you, Eva. I mean, for us at the EDB, we were very excited to hear about Project Kentucky last year when it was launched, right, at TFWA 2025. And I think to sort of see that partnership grow to include Agoda also in the fold, I think we're very keen to see, what's going to be next, in 2026. Yeah. Anyway.
No, for us, the business is quite simple, which is how do we get people into the stores, engage with our products, learn a little bit more about the products, and then purchase. And they may not purchase in the airport today, but they may purchase when they arrive in another country, or they may purchase in domestic. And I think GTR for me is an important channel to build brands, not just sell product. If I think about Changi Airport, it's the best. It's seamless. You don't have to touch anything. And actually, your dwell time in the airport, because of the seamless check-in, you have more time. And I think the way the store and retail is laid out is great, because you come through and you start seeing luxury brands, and then left and right you see cosmetics or wines and spirits. The challenge is, how do we get consumers or travelers to go into the store and engage with the products? Because I know once people go in, the conversion rate is high, but it's the traffic into the store, I think, is one of the challenges. And it can't just be price. To say we're 50% lower than somewhere else, I don't think is enough of a reason. We have to make it more interesting. What Changi has done with the robots making cocktails is really cool. And I remember I posted it on LinkedIn, and I got some criticism from bartenders saying, you're trying to say that robots will replace bartenders. They never will. But as an animation to be able to show what the perfect margarita with Contro looks like, you had people taking videos and pictures, and it just brings it to life. And as I said at the very start, it helps people understand how to use and enjoy the product. And I think that's the role that travel retail can do, and certainly Changi, for me, leads the way in many of those aspects.
Yeah. No, and I think shout out to our friends at the Changi Airport Group. I think they are constantly trying to innovate and sort of, and offer, new experiences, I think, to travelers, as well. And I think they're very happy to, partner with, all the companies that are represented here in sort of doing that together. Yeah, Nina, please.
I think my answer, I guess, would be very much related or a build up to what Ian said. When we talk about the advantage of, or if anyone, anyone in the rest of the world would be potentially underestimating Singapore, I would actually say that Singapore is the advantage, starting with the best-in-class airport that we have with Changi, right? 60 to 7 million passengers with the ambition to double it in a few years' time to 140 million. That's amazing, right? So I would say, yes, Singapore is the advantage with the best airport, and it deserves to have the best-in-class travel retail execution too. However, what I would also say is that I also believe that, how we truly innovate in travel retail would come down to also how well we closely collaborate as an ecosystem. And I think we should leverage on what we call the travel retail trinity, to build not just on footprint, but also on these experiences that we are talking about, plus the close partnership of the Singapore government. I think that is what could truly unlock opportunities for us, for Singapore travel retail particularly.
Great, thank you very much, Nina. So, a big thank you to all panelists today. I think we've heard, very, very interesting insights, I think, across, the different, segments in travel retail, talking about, sort of using AI to create some of these new experiences. We talked about, sort of, new experiences across, different segments, as well as, phygital, spaces, and really sort of how partnerships drive in a lot of this innovation as well. So thank you very much, for all your insights. I think that really is very strong momentum in travel retail. I think for us in Singapore, we saw, a record number of tourists, last year, and, we're very keen to work with you to see how we can convert, I guess that wallet share as well. And I think we do believe that Singapore is well positioned in shaping the future of travel retail. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining us today.